right, so welcome everybody. This is number 4 of our career speaker series. We have 2 more coming up. The people who own the Warrior Factory, which is a ninja gym in Williamsville, they will be here next month. And then in May, we will have Officer Maloney, who will talk about his time in the service and then becoming a police officer. But today we have Vincente Rondon. He is a street photographer. He's going to tell us a little bit about how he got into that and his work and his website. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. It's pretty casual. All right, so if you would help me welcome him, thank you very much.
Good morning, everybody. Can everybody hear me just fine? Yeah? Okay. So my name is Vincente Rondon, and I am a documentary portrait and street photographer out of Buffalo, New York. Okay. Does anybody here know what goes into being a documentary portrait or street photographer? No? Not at all? Oh, this is very exciting because this means that I can tell you whatever I want to. What is that? What'd you say? Yeah, there we go. Very good. I need a camera. I also have to have a sense of vision or like a voice for what I see. And what I mean by that is how do I transfer what I feel or what I want to see onto a 2D media type like a photograph. Does anybody here know what a photograph is? Yeah? Good. Yeah. It's a picture. What can a photograph mean? Anybody tell me? What was that? Anything that you want to, but give me some words that pop up in your head. What can a photograph mean? What can it represent? Memories, very good. Yeah. What else? Anybody else? A fun time. Okay. What else? A story, very good. And that's what I mostly focus on. Usually for me, it's a memory or a story. Now, the cool thing about this, just to give you a little bit of background about myself and how I got to be here, like in this room with you guys, is I'm actually a very good friend of Michelle's. But being, I'm sorry, Miss. So sorry about that. But there was a wonderful conversation that I was having with her a couple of months back, and it has to do with trajectory, especially within careers. And even though it's really cool and fun for me to be here for Career Day, I want to let you know that my trajectory wasn't exactly straight. Okay, it was zigzagged. And what I mean by that is that there were a lot of like hurdles along the way, and with that, there's a lot of stress and also a lot of intrigue and a lot of adventure. Okay. Now, what I'm about to tell you doesn't mean that you go out into the world and you decide, well, I can mess up at anything, so I can do this haphazardly and then I'll end up somewhere good. It doesn't necessarily mean that. It mostly means that it's okay to have mistakes that are made along the way. It's okay to kind of fail numerous times. But if you're doing the things that you need to do and focusing on the things that you really love and appreciate, then eventually I think that you'll get to the place that you need to be. Okay. So I grew up in Buffalo. I grew up on the west side of Buffalo. My brothers are all significantly older than I am, 12 and 15 years older than I am, and my parents are much older than most of my peers' parents were. I'm 32 years old now, so my brothers are in their mid to late 40s, and they all had their thing. My oldest brother is a Latin jazz percussionist, a professional Latin jazz percussionist, and he's also a state police investigator. Can you imagine balancing both of those things? On top of that, he's got a huge family. Like, it's huge. My middle brother lives out in Boston. He just had his first son a couple of months back, and he's 45 years old. He's been a graphic designer and an illustrator since he was 12 years old. And with that, he worked at New Era Cap Company, was one of the managers of design for about 12 years, and then he moved out to Boston with his wife. Okay? And then there was me. And with me, I didn't really have a talent or a skill when I was a kid. They had all this glory, and that was really cool. But I didn't really have that, and I tried illustration, I tried music, none of that worked, and eventually they purchased me a camera, and I started taking pictures, and that was the beginning of that. Taking pictures of strangers has always been a thing that I've been about, put it that way. So when it comes to this picture here, for example, all this took was me being at the right place at the right time by happenstance, and I decided to lift up my camera, and I made a picture of something that I thought was very beautiful in that moment. And with that being said, I have to admit that every photograph that I ever take isn't necessarily for everybody else to enjoy, even though I want you to enjoy the photographs that I make. It's more so because I want to enjoy the moment and I want to enjoy what I see. So everything that I make for me. Okay? And that doesn't mean that I'm being selfish about it. It's more so that I have to be happy with the things that I construct. So I'm going to do it the way that I want to do it. Okay? Now, we're going to look at just a couple of photographs, and during this, I want you to ask me whatever questions you want to when it comes to this career or my trajectory or the path that I chose with any of this. Everybody understand? Yeah? And please do not be afraid to ask questions. You can talk whenever you'd like. I mean that. Just raise your hand and I'll call on you. Okay? I can already see that one person has. Yeah, go ahead. Okay. Can I talk about the setting and everything? Is that okay? Okay. So I was sitting in a bar called the Gypsy Parlor. It's in Buffalo. It's in the west side of Buffalo. Okay, and it's on a street in Buffalo that is known for having a lot of culture and a lot of characters. And growing up on the west side, I'm Puerto Rican. It is very familiar to me, the Grant Street area. So I do venture around there a lot for really good photographs of people. And this particular place has a lot of character. This individual is named Kara, and Kara is a drag performer. Kara, being a drag performer, was they were putting on a performance that particular night at the Gypsy Parlor, and this happened to be also like a party night. I mean, I wasn't really there for the party, and I wasn't really there for drinking. I was just there for the characters and also because my friends were there. And I asked if I could make a couple of photographs of Kara while they were walking around preparing for their show. Now, the best part about this image is that this is pure happenstance. And when I mean pure happenstance, does anybody here know what happenstance means? Almost. Anybody? Like coincidence. It's almost coincidental. The light was this in this moment. Light was exactly what you see here, like in that corner. Okay? Everything was dark and just highlit by red. In a moment, someone decided to turn on the TV from the bar, like the bartenders decided to turn on the TV in the corner of the room, and that TV illuminated Kara's face while she was laughing, and she also had a fan upon her face to cool herself down. So we have a little bit of like airflow through her hair. The TV illuminated her face, and that red was cleared up, but gave us a nice highlight on the side, or a highlight on the side. And in that moment, while she was laughing, I decided to make the photograph because there's no time better than now. Okay. This image is very special to me just because it is very beautiful in terms of action, in terms of mood, but also in terms of composition. Because we have all these specters of people that are in the corner, and then these wonderful lights that lead us to our subject. And the combination of the red that we have on the side here with the blue that we have on the opposite side, and the blue that's coming from this blue room, all makes it very beautiful in terms of color and composition. Okay. That was a good question. Did that answer your question completely? Yeah? Do you have any other questions about that? No? Okay. Let's go to this one. This is also Kara as she is preparing to do her performance. I made a couple of photographs of her while she was putting her makeup on in the back room. And I really enjoyed this picture just because this is, again, purely coincidental. I didn't ask for anything to be staged. Kara is just holding a mirror up to her face while applying her lipstick. Now, this gentleman. What does he look like? He looks like a really nice old man. It's a very good way to put that. Okay. Anybody else have any questions or comments or actually just comments first? You said he looks like a country guy? Very good. He kind of is a country guy. He is from the rural areas of Puerto Rico. Okay. And the funny thing is that this man's name is Mr. De Leon. And Mr. De Leon lives on Hudson Avenue in the west side of Buffalo. I remember every place that I've ever made a photograph, and I remember all the places that people live whenever I visit them at their homes to make the photographs. But Mr. De Leon lives on Hudson Avenue, and he's got this beautiful scar that's on his chin. Does everybody see that? Very beautiful, very deep scar. But the fact that he was just sitting in his doorway on a summer's day with this leather jacket on and this cowboy hat on, just staring out into the street, I decided to approach him and make a photograph. Now, here's the best thing about making photographs of strangers. Mr. De Leon turns out to be my mother's cousin, and I didn't know that. And when I printed this photograph, she freaked out because she was like, I haven't seen him in years. Like, he's in his 70s. She hadn't seen him in years. Yeah, but that's her cousin. So sometimes it could bring you to really fun places that are just, again, coincidental. Okay. Now, if you guys want, you could all check out my photographs on the website whenever. It's just VincenteRondon.com. But I'm just going to be cycling through these while I take some questions or we have some conversation. Does anybody have any questions so far about what I do or the nature of what I do? None at all? Really? You sure? You could ask whatever. Yeah. It's always people, of course, or things that have to do with people. But even more so, I look for things that are intriguing. And when I say things that are intriguing, just little spotlights of things. So if you ever see a person with, let's say, tattoos on their knuckles, I'm going to notice that, and I'm going to investigate that person and decide whether or not I want to make a photograph of them. If someone has piercings, I usually look for that. Not oddly colored hair, but hair that is different from everybody else's. Anything that is like an accessory to a person that's different. Yep, anything that's outstanding or an accessory, yeah, absolutely. Now, I also look for people who are doing things that aren't necessarily out of the ordinary, but are different from everyone else in the surrounding. For example, this picture. What do we see here? It's one tree, right? Do you guys see what's on either side of the trees? Or either side of the tree? People. How many people on the right-hand side? And how many people on the left-hand side? There's about 6 there, actually, if you look closely. Yeah, if you look very closely, you'll see other heads on the horizon. Yeah. Now, the great thing about this was that this, again, was purely by happenstance. This is at Gallagher Pier, and I remember this woman's name. Her name is Delaney. Delaney was looking off to her right, and off to her right was nothing in that empty space that we have here, but just a whole bunch of people gathered in a party, and she was sitting alone. That tree is a divider for that. Okay. So remember, your pictures can tell a story. Anything that you do can tell a story, and that's what I like doing with my photographs. Now, every time that I make a photograph of a person, well, 99.9% of the time that I make a photograph of a person, I do talk to them right after or just before. Okay, but for this image, I waited until after to talk to Delaney because this is too beautiful to interrupt. Yeah, go ahead. Sure. Okay, so like the biggest story for me? Let's do that. Actually, there's 2. So I'm going to tell you an adventurous story if you want an adventurous story. And all of these are an adventure, no joke. So we have this one, and I want you guys to keep these in your mind, okay? So we have this one. Awesome, thank you so much. There we go. Cool. So we have this one. This was of a gentleman that I found in Tonawanda, North Tonawanda, New York, who has a, oh my God, I just forgot what this is called. Taxidermy shop. There we go. Thank you so much. This taxidermy shop is in North Tonawanda, and I just happened to see him cleaning out the skull of an animal in his yard, like hosing it down while I was driving by. And I decided to stop and ask him if I could see the inside of the taxidermy shop and if we could talk for a little while. We ended up talking for about 45 minutes inside of his taxidermy shop, and I made some portraits of him in there. Very surreal experience because you're surrounded by all these heads of animals and all these like full-bodied animals that are not alive but were alive at some point that he has stuffed himself. Oh yeah, they're very real. In fact, the back of the shop, right behind that wall, is this too gory for anybody? Is anybody like a little weirded out by? No? Okay, so the back of that shop was literally filled with deer and antelope, all kinds of animal that he would either have like sent in or that he had hunted himself, and he was clearing them out for prep. Which one? This one right here? This one right here? That's a fox. Yeah, that's a fox. It's the way that he processes them. Like he fills them with things, and yeah, oh yeah, there's stuffing inside of them, and there's also like rod and wire. Yeah, yeah. Very eerie experience, especially like seeing him clear out like other carcasses. And then there is this one. This is Corky. Her name's Corky. This is Hearts of Fire, and this is Azim, I believe. And this just happened when I was driving around in Alden, and I decided to stop off at a farm that intrigued me just because it was a Victorian house in front of a farm, in front of horse stables. And I walked up to the door and asked if I could see what it's like to have a horse stable. And these wonderful people let me into their home and into their stable to make some photographs throughout the evening. We ended up talking for a very long time about what it takes to own horses. And I made this beautiful portrait of Corky with her 2 horses. Okay. And then we have, the reason why I'm going to show you this one is because this one's fun. Now, the reason why I wanted to talk to you about this when it comes to the adventure aspect or the memory aspect of making a photograph, again, the memory solidified because of the photo, but the best part is the story that comes behind the photo. And I like I like doing oration with all of my photographs. But this particular photograph I made after driving along Route 5 and seeing this man look at the sunset from a distance. I was on that back road that's over there. And he was standing looking at the sunset in this beautiful white silk shirt and silk pants. He had these beautiful white sneakers on, and then that not silk, but that white Kango hat on. And the wind was blowing really beautifully. It was about 78 degrees outside, and he was standing there, and that wind was just passing through his shirt, passing through the pants. He just looked like someone out of Greek myth, essentially, like standing next to the water. And I decided to approach him after parking my car and ask him if I could make a photograph. He was perfectly fine with it, right? He was with his whole family. They were about 20 feet off to his right. But his family didn't know that I was just approaching him and asking permission to make photographs, and that he was okay with it. And his family not knowing that, I heard them come up behind me. A couple of his nieces apparently were right behind me. And I heard a clack, clack, clack sound. So the sound was this all the way through. Does anybody know what that might be? High heels, maybe, right? But a little fast for that, right? Maybe, right? Well, what was that? Running? Okay, possibly. And that's what I wanted to believe, of course, but it was just way too fast. That's all I hear the whole way through. No? Okay. So it sounds like typing too, yeah. It was a taser. And his niece was fully ready to tase me in the back of the head because she thought that I was accosting her uncle for a photograph. So that's one of my favorite memories for making a picture. And I know that might sound scary, and that's also kind of funny. It's funny to me, especially being an adult. It's funny to me. But there is a certain sense of risk that comes with making photographs or being a storyteller. But I also happen to think that when it comes to doing the things that you want to do or doing the things that you really love, there's always going to be risk, and that's the best part. I mean, there isn't really a great reward without really good risk. And that doesn't mean that you always have to get into physical danger. There has to be some extravagant story that goes with that. But it is kind of fun to know that, it took something to make this photograph. And I was going to keep on making the photographs even if I got tased. So that's what it takes. Yeah, that's what it takes. That might have been something special. Okay? So aside from that, though, the other one that I think of is this. And the reason why I love this photograph so much is because it just happens to be one of my favorite portraits that I've made. But this gentleman's name is Jordan. And Jordan goes up and down Richmond Avenue in Buffalo and Elmwood as well. And the thing is that Jordan is dressed in traditional native garb or indigenous garb. Okay? But if you see Jordan walk one way, he has this huge leather bag with him too that he walks with while he's walking around in this garb. But if you see him walk one way up Richmond, when he comes back the other way, he'll be in a completely different outfit. And that's because he does a change at some point during the day when he's going back and forth. Okay? But I happen to think that this picture is just very beautiful because of the look on his face. If you look very closely, too, you'll start to see the detail in his face. And when I say that, I mean he's got tattoos all over his cheeks. They're black tattoos. So if you look closely at the picture, if you come up to it, you'll see that there's a tattoo here where the arrow is pointing. There's a tattoo here, and there's also some here and here. They're symmetrical. They're right on his face. And that's one of my favorite things about this picture is that you really have to look hard to see it. Okay? But he is a lovely, lovely person. When I say lovely, I mean he's very kind. He is very soft-spoken, very open to people asking him questions about why he wears this garb or what he does walking every day. He walks a lot. And the best part about this, too, is that he's about... How tall do you guys think that he is? Okay, we're getting a lot of... Okay, some people are saying 6'5". He's about 5'2". He's literally like this tall. Yeah. Okay. Oh, nice. Okay, very cool. All right. You should talk to him sometime. But yeah, he's just a really, truly wonderful individual that has a lot of intrigue, and he is a character, but is also a person. So you respect that, and you try to get the story. And I'll talk to him more and more as I see him. But he is truly lovely. And my favorite part about this, though, is that not only is it my favorite portrait because of the content, but it's also made on film, and that's what I mostly shoot in, because I like to feel like I'm worth my salt as a photographer by shooting on analog instead of digital. Okay? Yeah, go ahead. Technically since I was 12, and I'm 32 now, so it's 20 years, almost 21 years. But as a dedicated like portrait and documentary style photographer with like a focus, probably since I was around 22. Okay. Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead.
I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about like your journey to becoming a professional photographer.
Sure. Yeah. It's filled with a lot of failure. That's the best part. So I don't want to take up too much of your time, but we've got like what, 6 minutes? Yeah, we can definitely do this in that time because I'll make it quick. So in high school, I focused on photo and flunking a lot of the time. And I say that not as in like, yeah, it's fun to fail in high school. It isn't. It's actually very stressful. It was stressful for me. But I went to a high school that I probably shouldn't have gone to, even though I was grateful to go there. It was Hutch Tech High School in the city, and that's a magnet school that specifically focuses on science and math. I'm not a science and math person at all. I should have gone to something like Performing Arts or even Da Vinci High School. That would have been perfect for me. But in that, I would fail a lot of my classes, and one class I had to repeat. Thankfully, I graduated on time, and my guidance counselor was very disappointed in me a lot of the time through high school, which really that held like a huge weight over my head, especially since she knew my family. In college, I went to ECC. I went to ECC because I didn't have the grades to get into the colleges that a lot of my friends were going into, and I needed to start somewhere, and ECC is a great place to start, especially if you want to save money and you want to get quality education for your gen eds. Went to ECC and got depressed while at ECC, to be honest, because a lot was going on in my life at the time. Almost flunked out of ECC. Had to write a letter to get back into ECC. Did that. Graduated from ECC with a 3.0 GPA, which is pretty decent considering that I failed my first 2 semesters, basically. After ECC, went to Buff State. And at Buff State, I decided to focus on photo. And while focusing on photo, it was mostly fine art photography, and I tried to figure out where I was going to go with photo the whole way through. Out of 12 or 13 other students in my photo program, I was the only male in that semester. And on top of that, I'm the only one, actually one of 2 out of those 13 that has actually done something with photo since graduating with that. So, I mean, out of all those people, there's only 2 of us that are really professionals in the realm of photo. The other person is a retoucher, and I actually still make photographs. After that, I was still working at Delaware Camera, which is customer service, like photo education center, and I was teaching classes, taught some classes at Locust Street Art, and I was not doing well financially, like at all. Wasn't doing well financially at all. And I decided that I needed to make a change. Like I was literally down to my last $8 when I was around 27 years old. Just because I was trying to make photographs and I was trying to do something with that, but also trying to figure out where I wanted to go and where I wanted to move, where I wanted to be. I applied for a job at the Albright Knox. Turns out that I got the job, even though I was not very qualified for it. It was purely based on the fact that I'm very good at talking to people, and I also have an art background that I got the job. Held that job for almost 3 years as a program coordinator for the art truck. And that was me just trying my best until I couldn't try anymore. And even with that job, there were hurdles. As an adult, there are still hurdles. I went through some personal life changes, and that job was taking a lot from me, not because it was a bad job. It was a beautiful job. It's just that there was a lot that went into it. And I had to make another change. So the next change, the next evolution was I start my own business. And now I have a studio. It's a really beautiful studio that I make a lot of headshots and like portraits at. Those are mostly like commission based, and on top of that I travel a lot and I make photographs wherever I go, and I get paid to do that. I'm very happy and very grateful for that, but it took a lot, and I mean an incredible amount of failure and falling flat on my face in order to get to that point, and I'm not done yet. That's the thing. There's still going to be epic fails that come with all of this. I can't believe that I just said epic fails. But there's going to be a lot of failure that comes after this too, and I think that that's the beautiful part about like your life trajectory. There's not going to be an end to failure, so you kind of have to get used to it and roll with it. Okay. Did that answer your question? Sorry. Okay. Any other questions, guys? You could ask whatever you'd like. Again, you got me for the next 3 minutes. Use it up. Yeah, okay, go ahead. Yeah. I'm content with it. I would like to be doing more, and how you do that is you start bothering people. And I don't mean you become annoying in a funny way. It's more so you reach out to different publications. You reach out to get grants. You try to apply for grants. You do proposals. Right now, I'm doing a workshop on photography for senior citizens so they can build a legacy book, and that's at the Pratt Willard Community Center. And they're having a great time with that. So that's actually that's feeding me very nicely right now. And I don't mean like monetarily, but it's feeding my soul. So I like that a lot. Oh, hopefully still here, like because there is a lot of adventure to be had. But in 5 or 10 years, I'd like to be a contracted photographer on a major publication like National Geographic. That'd be cool. That'd be my favorite thing in the world. Interviewing people for a living and making photographs of them would be my favorite thing in the world. Yeah. Oh, all the time, my man. All the time. That's a very good question. Yeah, all the time. And sometimes you get people who are very angry about you even approaching them to make a photograph. Sometimes you get people who are very like shy and meek about that. 2 minutes. But it's part of the journey. Like that's my favorite thing about photo and doing exactly that, approaching people that end up not wanting their photograph made or they don't even want to be spoken to, is that you get used to the rejection. And again, as someone who's failed a lot in life, I've been used to rejection since I was a teen. So you kind of build this callus to it. It's like, okay, people say no all the time, and that's fine. You have to move along with your day. You respect that a person doesn't want to do that, and that's it. And sometimes it gets kind of chaotic every once in a while whenever someone says no. Like I've had someone throw a fist at me. That's been fun too. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
So, what's like one piece of advice that you have for high schoolers who are looking to create?
Okay, so the word that I've been using all through this, be okay with failure. In fact, I encourage you to do it, and I'm not BSing you by saying that. Like I encourage you to fail. The reason why I say that is because the only way you're going to know exactly where you want to be or how you want to create or the standard, your own personal standard for what you're creating, is by failing over and over and over again. That's my favorite part of the whole thing. When I really can't get something right, I know that means to me, that means that I care very deeply about what it is that I'm doing. If something isn't working for me in terms of the photograph that I made, it just doesn't look okay, that means that I care. And I'm not going to stop until I get it right. So I'd say be very open to failing and be very open to risk. Oh, man. Putting money away the time that I should have. Like an earlier point, I had a good amount of money one time at like 23, 24 years old, and I should have put that all away towards this instead of spending it on the things that I did. I'd say make sure that you save up money, and I'm not telling you like actual financial things. I mean like just save up some money so you can do the things that you really want to do. Yeah, money is important, unfortunately, when it comes to this. Yeah.